3 months ago, I created the perfect Roman artifact forgery. Not for a museum, not for science, for revenge. My name is Dr. Alastair Finch. I'm 55 years old, and I'm a history professor who taught my cheating wife and her lover the most expensive lesson of their lives. But let me start from the beginning. I always believed that history is the only science that doesn't lie. Artifacts don't deceive, ancient texts don't cheat, archaeological layers don't betray. Unlike people. My world at the University of Seattle was built on facts, logic, and objects that are thousands of years old but more honest than any living person. My 30-year marriage to Catherine seemed as solid as Roman aqueducts, built to last centuries. She owned the city's most fashionable art gallery. I was the quiet professor who found beauty in pottery fragments. We were a paradox that worked. She brought vibrant colors of modern art into my orderly life. I gave her stability and intellectual depth, or so I thought. It all started with a book. A rare edition of Caesar's Commentaries on the Gallic War was lying on the coffee table in our living room, open to the page describing the siege of Alesia. I distinctly remembered leaving it in my study. Catherine called my books dusty old tomes and never touched them. We hadn't had guests in days. This tiny anomaly triggered the same alarm in me that an archaeologist feels finding a modern object in an ancient lair. Something was out of place. For the first time in 6 months, I decided to check the security camera footage I'd installed after neighborhood break-ins. What I saw on screen destroyed my life in 2 minutes. My elegant wife was bringing a man into our home. Not just any man, Julian Vance, my most brilliant graduate student, whom I considered my intellectual heir. They weren't just kissing in my living room. They were laughing at my books, at my study, at my life. "Look at this graveyard of knowledge," Julian was saying, gesturing at my shelves. "The old man lives among the dead. He doesn't understand what real life is, what real passion feels like." Catherine laughed with that same laugh that once sounded like music to me. "For 30 years I've pretended to share his obsession with history, but history is just pretty lies about the past." Julian picked up my Caesar book, the very one that gave them away. "He won't even notice. Archaeologists live in the past, not the present. I'm going to surpass him, become what he never was, famous." And then they went to the bedroom, the same bedroom where Catherine and I shared 30 years of our lives. I sat in front of the monitor, and there was no rage inside me. Rage is the hot emotion of savages. I felt only the cold clarity of a scholar who'd found the solution to a complex problem. They think I'm an old man living among the dead? Perfect. I'll make them drown in that past. As I predicted, the next day she shared this information with Julian. His reaction was predictable. Blinded by dreams of glory, he began secret excavations without official permission. I buried the tablet myself where he would dig, based on his working methods that I knew like my own fingers. A week later came Catherine's ecstatic phone call. "Alastair, you won't believe it. Julian made the discovery of the century. A real Roman curse tablet." I feigned surprise and admiration. Inside, I felt the cold satisfaction of a surgeon seeing the operation going according to plan. The news exploded the academic world. "Young genius surpasses his teacher. Discovery that overturns our understanding of Roman Britain. The future of archaeology belongs to the new generation." Julian basked in the spotlight, gave interviews, appeared on television. He scheduled a grand presentation in the university's main lecture hall. The whole city was talking about this event. The hall was packed. Journalists, professors, students, museum representatives. Catherine sat in the front row in an expensive new dress, glowing with pride for her lover. Julian entered the stage like a Roman triumphator. He spoke about the fine's significance, how it changed history. He thanked Catherine for her invaluable support. He presented the artifact displayed under glass on a velvet cushion. I sat in the third row and waited. When his speech ended to thunderous applause, I raised my hand. "Professor Vance, may I ask a question?" Everyone turned. Julian's face showed a flicker of irritation, but he nodded condescendingly. "Of course, Alastair. Anything for my mentor." I slowly approached the stage. The hall fell silent. Everyone sensed the tension. "Brilliant find," I began calmly, "but I have a few technical questions. Did you conduct spectral analysis of the metal?" "Absolutely. The lead dates to the 1st, 2nd century AD. "Exactly. Old lead from, say, an 1890 barn roof would show the same result." A murmur rippled through the hall. "But I'm interested in the text. Don't you find it strange that a simple centurion used a poetic phrase characteristic of Ovid?" The smile began sliding off Julian's face. "Ovid was in exile on the Black Sea at that time. His later works hardly would have reached an ordinary officer in Britain." I raised my voice. "And this ligature of letters A and V, an exact copy from the style from a Pompeii tombstone, published in the Journal of Roman Epigraphy last year. The volume you love to quote, Julian." Excited whispers started in the hall. Julian paled. And finally, I looked directly into his eyes. The acrostic, the first letters of each line give an English phrase, Julian's folly. And the curse's date, converted to the modern calendar, is March 15th of this year, the day when you and my wife decided that the old man lives among the dead and wouldn't notice anything. The hall erupted with exclamations, camera flashes, journalists shouting. Julian grabbed the podium, his face waxy. Catherine in the front row covered her face with her hands. "This isn't an ancient artifact," I continued over the noise. "This is a modern work of art. A forgery I created during 2 months of night work. A lesson that history truly punishes those who don't respect it. And betrayal, like falsification, always leaves traces." I put down the microphone and headed for the exit through the stunned crowd. Behind me, I heard Julian screaming, "It's a lie! Alastair, you can't! I didn't know!" But I wasn't listening anymore. My work was finished. Epilogue. That was 6 months ago. Julian's career is destroyed. He was expelled from the university for academic fraud. No respectable institution will hire him. Catherine became a pariah in the art world, where reputation is everything. Her gallery closed, the land had to be sold for a pittance. They disappeared from the city. I heard they moved to another state, where their names aren't yet synonymous with shame. And me? I returned to my books, my lectures, my orderly world of antiquities. Students look at me with new respect and fear. The story of Professor Finch's curse has become a legend. Sometimes at night I go down to the workshop and look at the tools I used for creating my revenge. I don't feel triumph, only cold satisfaction from restored order. My study is quiet again, books in their places. Caesar lies exactly where he should, and on the wall hangs a copy of my Centurion's Curse, the only forgery I'm proud of. Unlike their fleeting passion, shame lasts through the ages, and now Julian's and Catherine's names are forever written in the university's history, not as discoverers of truth, but as characters in a cautionary tale about betrayal. History, after all, is the most just judge of all.